I can't hear the audio for some reason. But this is another episode of Write Once, Read Many. This time covering 21.7 from the Imago arc. Gonna let the intro play for a second. Oh, Vic is here first. Heyo. Oh, the speed draw. It's happening. Vale, you're gonna want to keep your eyes peeled for this speed draw. It's a very good art. Okay. So as an audience participation reminder, the audience participation question for this week is, do you think Taylor's relationship is stronger with Rachel or Lisa? Which we will discuss at the end. Vic said in quotation marks, running pants, about what Taylor's wearing. Vale says, I wonder what the etymology is of keep your eyes peeled. It sounds awful. He says, Taylor's always vague about her fashion choices. Yeah, it's pretty unclear in a lot of scenes what she's actually wearing, but, you know, it's Taylor. It's probably pretty bland overall. She's not a flashy dresser. Man, the lightning of the final color storm that time. And there we are with our final image. So yeah, it's wow. Vic says, I like how specific Victoria is in comparison. Yeah, it's gonna make the drawings from Ward way more like but Victoria is vague about people's appearances. Yeah, she doesn't talk about like the look of the person's face as much. I think Taylor's like a weird perv, so she's always like, you know, sizing people's faces up really closely and like their bodies and stuff, but then Victoria is trying to be not like that, and so is focusing on their outfits and stuff. Vale says, wow, I love this art. Yeah, of course, it's very good. It made me feel some type of ways. Vic says, thank you. Taylor is a starer. Yeah. It's a good thing she normally has like her costume lenses to hide behind, because she's just like checking people out and being gross. Typical Taylor. Anyway though, on to the themes. I think we can finally talk about Taylor's plan this whole time was to turn herself in after doing all these setup moves first. And the like loss of connection, and even though they say they're not saying goodbye, the like sad goodbye of it all. That's the theme. A sad goodbye of it all. Vic says, always be ogling. Vale is checking people out really gross. Isn't it something everybody does? Just some are more or less obvious. I mean, sure. It's not that, but I like to give Taylor shit is one thing, and then the other thing is that Taylor is like kind of Taylor does it at least to a point where we can make fun of her for it, whereas a lot of characters don't. So yes, you're right, Vale. I'm teasing. I'm kidding. Vic said Victoria checks people out like a normal person. Taylor checks people out like a weirdo. Bill says, I'm sitting here checking you out, giving Taylor shit. Consider yourself checked out. Or check outed. Yes, I shall. You've seen my form, and it's terrible. I've been checked. Taylor just has this way about her sometimes where she's like, oh, yeah, I know that Legend is married and gay, but let me get some of that. So, you know. She doesn't say those words, but like, she only technically doesn't. Looks like Vic agrees. Anyway, so moving into the chapter itself, as it were, Taylor's meeting up with Tattletale, but Tattletale's not ready yet, and she's still got that strong thinker headache, like why we haven't seen her this entire arc. Well, I mean, I guess we saw her in 21.1, but she's been down for the count for like a week. And so it's like a perfectly closed off room. And I guess some light's coming in, but it's supposed to be so dark that Taylor can't see anything and has to put her little fingies on the keyboard to feel for the J and what is it? This keyboard's so worn I can't read the keys. I'm assuming it's J and F, based off memory, but oh no, she says it F and J keys, yeah. But yeah, she puts in some code that Tattletale gave her, and it disables a bunch of stuff. So she's like, I don't even want to think about what I just stopped from blowing me up or whatever, or wiping all the databases or what have you. And she checks out Tattletale's sort of lair here. Even with a guest login account that she's got, a bunch of bullshit pulls up on the screen. There's all sorts of like note cards and things with probably more sensitive information she doesn't want to put on computers. Like things about Cauldron are written on note cards. And she's got all sorts of stuff. They'll talk about how there's like source of powers, there's like incoming threats, all sorts of things. And there's notably 3 capes that are confirmed to be Cauldron capes, which are the Triumvirate. And then there are there's information about Case 53s, and there's clearly like codes going on in here. There's like series of numbers and letters that are like probably perfectly decipherable to Tattletale, but there's like more or less a list of people who had natural trigger events, and Skitter is one of the people on the list, and so are capes we'll never hear about again. Jedi, that's probably not correct for the pronunciation, but I choose to believe it's the bad guy from Sailor Moon Jedi. And then either Jethsmain or Gethsmain. Unclear. Vic says, I sure wish I could interpret the codes. Feel like there's so much tea here. Yeah, she's talking shit about Taylor. She's like, bullying, total twerp, weak as shit. That's what all the letters stand for. Um, it says that like the other Undersiders weren't up there, only Skitter because they've already lost the infosec there. Bullying, yeah, it definitely says just in broad daylight, called out. It's not in all caps like Vic just did, but it's close enough. That's how Taylor reads it. So, you know, she's looking around the room still. The potential threats are the teeth, although they have yet to be crossed off. Red-handed, although I think they get renamed later, like in a few arcs to be called the Red Hands. So I don't know if they changed the name or if it's just kind of retconned and he never changed this chapter. But Heartbreaker, Lost Garden, Adepts, The Orchard, and The Fallen. And, you know, The Fallen, they took out a couple of them, but that's still a threat. Whereas the Teeth, that's just kind of one team. Oh no, Vic is typing out in modern youth lingo. Bullying! Put all spaces between all the letters. Tattletale just got the name a little wrong. She has the approximate knowledge on most things. Yeah. And I have approximate knowledge of what words are behind the heart. On the chat. If only there was an obvious setting to remove this stupid icon that blocks the very bottom message on the chat. It seems like sometimes I feel like the tech companies are just making things bad on purpose. I don't even know. It's just like, how could you get so many details wrong? True lack of craftsmanship. So, Vale says, maybe the person who typed the message you can't see is really the one to blame. Oh, that's true, Vale. I should have thought of that to begin with. I should blame Vic. Vic, who agreed with my statements against those very, unhelpful tech companies. Let's see here. I lost my place, but basically, there's all sorts of stuff, information. There's file folders that Taylor's not gonna look through. Although she briefly looks at the Adepts, who is like, oh, I guess we'll get to see this team later, maybe. And we do. We get to see them just a little bit. But Taylor's already like, a time travel character? I don't even want to deal with the time travel. Putting the folder away so as to not read too much about a time travel character. There's Lost Garden, who's like a middle-aged creep, along with a bunch of teens, young teens, and he can sort of create this weird like area with tons of plants. It says overgrowth extending into the surrounding neighborhood, but yeah, it's got like he has a plant zone and he can slowly move it, but he can't ever leave it. So it's Labyrinth-esque, but if Labyrinth strategically never left the area she controlled. Vic says very cult vibes. Yeah, for sure. And like, we'll not see the events of whatever happens here, but we'll hear about the fallout in chapters where other characters sort of talk about it. Like I remember this character named specifically Barrow from people talking about it in Ward. And then So there's all sorts of plans for Brockton Bay, all sorts of property sales, money moving around, etc. The most of it seems to be centered around the portal, which, you know, we know basically that Tattletale owns the land that the portal is on, but she clearly has plans to like launder that ownership to a more legitimate face. You know, like Orlando's strip club, something like that. You know, Orlando's never committed a crime, so if you run him on the books, it's fine. I mean, he's not even in the system. Let's see here. Oh, there's all sorts of like large scale stuff that she's focused on. Tattletale, like, I'll just read all this section here. The whole pieces of greater puzzles that but don't know what shape it takes. Place, person, thing, or something less concrete. What are powers? Underlined are. Mirror/extrapolation a consideration? Is there a link between there and here? Why? Underlined. Power distribution, aimless, simple, chaotic? Mistake? Something go wrong? Is this only part of something greater? Scheme or something more base? You know what? I was thinking about cutting it off and not reading the whole thing and just describing the rest, but I'm just going to read it all the Tattletale ramblings. I really like this, and this is like some of the only doses we get of it in the whole book, so. Why trigger events? Why go to trouble? Connection to the source? Tied to something primal or some scheme? Simple or complicated? What is deviation between cauldron and typical trigger? Was there leak to water supply from cauldron? Parasite? Look into epidemiology. Prob not. Get someone's story about process for getting powers from cauldron for hints. Who has answers? If not thinkers, then capes with closer connection to passengers? PRT, cauldron, S9, other gods? What channels can I use to get these answers? Theft, coercion, money, goodwill, barter? Have to set a value for an answer before raising idea with coil crossed out skitter written after it. So that's excellent. I really appreciate the way that the Tattletale mood board is set up, and how it does seem like perhaps someone like Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has come up with a conspiracy theory and is red stringing it like crazy. But, you know, it's like if Charlie had a superpower to actually see conspiracies instead of just believe in them. Vic says, "Yeah, I love to conspiracy boards, definitely." And the line after it, "I frowned and stepped away," is directly after realizing that Coil is crossed out and like now it's Skitter. It's just like you are exactly in the Coil place in the organization, and it makes her feel some type of way. So there's like an end of the world board also for anywhere that Jack has interacted with, and is like specifically keeping track of what Dinah can and can't pay attention to, and so is marking areas they dealt with whether or not they have what Tattletale terms here stoppers. And there's like a potential for something bad to have happened in Boston because it says, yes, stoppers, no direct interaction between any stoppers and 9. And then it crosses this out because it's like call to double check with still. And then they say no interaction, but it's just like, I don't know, even when there's the chance. And then it says toy box, no stoppers. So, all these others are city names: Hartford, Enfield, Chicopee, Southbridge, Boston, but then Toy Box. I wonder. So, anyway, they, moving on from there, they, Taylor's thinking about Jack and stuff, and she checks out, Tattletale's main desk, and the chair that is seen here, sans Tattletale, and, she looks at Tattletale's computer. There's all sorts of stuff. There's stock tickers, and there's, news feeds and all the crap, everything you'd expect, and it's all going crazy, and Tattletale's brain must be so overloaded. And there's like forum posts with relating to Skitter and Taylor Hebert and stuff, and this makes Taylor sad too. So many things make Taylor sad now. It's just, it's what it's. And then this is when Tattletale Lisa steps out, and she doesn't know what to call her because she's all a mix. She's got civilian clothes, but the Lisa hair. It's almost like she didn't have the energy to put it up in a braid. She's got the civilian clothes, but Tattletale hair. See, this is how mixed up I am about Tattletale and Lisa, because I normally only call her Tattletale. We never see the Lisa inside. And right away she tries to like start saying something, but then has a problem because she's still got her terrible thinker headache, and she turns off all system lights and screens, so it's as dark as it can possibly be. Vic says, it's almost like Lisa and Tattletale have been the same person all along. Yes. We learned that finally here for the first time that Tattletale and Lisa are the same person. Taylor says that she thought that Tattletale would have recovered more, and she's like, nope. But she's not gonna miss what she knows is the last goodbye from Taylor. She's not going to let her last interaction with Taylor be the time that she talked to her after they attacked the PRT the other day. No way, no how. This is not happening. So, she doesn't know what to say anyway, though. And she's got this terrible headache. And Taylor's asking her if she's doing too much, if she's going to too great a lengths. Tattletale finds this laughable coming from Taylor, but she's, she insists. She's like, do you really need to find the source of powers? And it's like, it's all connected, baby. It's one big Sudoku board, and you can't just Sudoku one of the 9 squares, and then it turns out it's not just a Sudoku board, it's the Sudocube from Problem Sleuth. The giant, massive, 3-dimensional structure. So, given that she's got to solve the Sudocube, then she needs to search into all problems, including why Taylor can't chill. Which is, one of those mysteries of the universe. So Taylor adds that Accord buys powers. Maybe some sort of avenue to get information from. And then she indexes this, but this is an indication of how far Lisa's thinker headaches have gone. She's not even keeping up on information they definitely know from like a recorded conversation with Citrine. So, Tattletale apologizes for taking so long to show up, and Taylor says this gave her time to think. A calm before the storm. And, they sort of talk through the thinker headache and stuff, and at some point Lisa says, like, I was almost gonna say we should get this over with. Or let's just get this over with. But they realize it's gonna be their last meeting, and they have nothing to say to each other. It's terrible. I mean, it's not overly. The hug is very heartwarming, and it will happen. But like, it is sad that they just don't know how to approach each other, either one, and that they can't like face their own like emotions about like this is part of why I feel like this is almost like it's a more standoffish connection, but it's like a stronger connection than the Rachel Taylor one because they're like so overcome by their emotions that neither of them knows how to deal with this. Which I guess is also true to a certain extent with Rachel. Like Taylor just tries to bounce without saying anything, thinking that an Irish goodbye is the proper response to Rachel. um, but Lisa says that she wishes she could give some advice. Taylor's like, you've already gone overboard, but the sentiment's enough. And again, Tattletale, like, I'll just read this. It's not really, fuck me, I'm not very good at this. Being uncertain, frustrated, disappointed in my inability to offer anything, she trailed off. And scared, she agreed. And Taylor thinks to herself how she never thought that she'd see, like, Lisa open up to her and show this hurt after she'd had all the, like, physical injuries and stuff before where she had never really done this. But now she's finally, like, unsure and, like, totally left, well, I mean, as I said, vulnerable, but, and then Vic says, low-key ship them. Yeah, I mean, me too. Like, I think they're a better pair than Taylor Rachel. As both, like a best friends pair and as a ship. Vic says they're so in love. Yeah, I know. Like, this is so much harder than any of the other partings. Like, you'd think that Brian or Rachel would be, like, the same level, but, like, this chapter feels so, like, emotional to me. And, you know, earlier I was thinking about these chapters and, you know, crying a little or whatever. Yeah. Probably won't happen here, but you can imagine it. Just all the listeners can use their imaginations as though they were reading a book about it. But Taylor says, got me thinking. Don't know if I ever said it to you. I owe you the most, in a way. And then Vale says, Lisa knows Taylor is checking her out in an endless stream of internal power-based, she's checking you out monologues. Oh, no. She's like, on a scale of pretty to plain, I can do fuckboy / hey mama lesbian hands. See, that's a reference to Arc 2, but also to the way that Vic talks about the sleaziness coming from Taylor. You have to know the whole stream to be into that. Anyway, I'm all over the place here. So Lisa tries to apologize. She's like, you shouldn't be thankful. I don't even think that it was a good thing that I brought you in. And this line here made me think a lot when I heard about it. Heard it the first time on the audiobook. The means justify the end, maybe. And, like, it made me turn that phrase around and, like, think about well, not only this situation, but just like situations in which people will say like, do the means justify the end, and like it's like almost the opposite sometimes of like the or I mean, do the ends justify the means? And sometimes it's the opposite of like, no matter how good the intentions are in the moment, if you have like a really bad result at the end, like you can't just like say I don't know. It just like raises the. It's an interesting phrase that raises a lot of thoughts, I guess. And it made me think a lot when I first read it, heard it. But either way, Taylor is saying that doesn't matter at this point. I'm thanking you regardless. And they have this really sweet moment. And then Taylor's about to go. She's like, that's my cue to go. Which she's been saying like every 5 seconds this whole time, basically. Tattletale says, damn, that's it? What more is there to say? And it's very sad. And Tattletale thinks that she's supposed to give advice, but I don't think that's what should be happening. It's like more of stuff like what they just said, like the thank yous and stuff, and like I don't know, stuff like that probably. But then Tattletale says, "Give him hell." "Will do," I said. I approached her, then leaned down, wrapped my arms around her, while she was still sitting in the chair. One gesture, as if it could convey everything I couldn't say with words. Yes. That's... I'm glad we got that moment captured in this art with no background greebles or anything to see, just that. I'm gonna drink coffee for a second, so there's gonna be some dead air. Hopefully not some terrible mukbang. I'm gonna turn my head away to avoid slurping sounds. I'm sure that I've terribly been caught by the microphone anyway, but yes, Vale says this is very disappointing. Dead air. I know. Well, it's a moment of silence for their ship ending, actually, and I'm gonna take another moment to drink the second half of the coffee cup. So. You know, if you take 2 big gulps at a time, you can finish a coffee cup when you were only putting it up to your face twice. It's pretty useful information, actually. Gru had worried I was fatalistic. That wasn't quite the term that applied here, but the underlying idea was sound. And now this is when she thinks to herself that they had already agreed to no goodbyes, and she collects herself, her backpack and crap, and leaves. So they really don't say anything after the hug. That's just the final moment. Vale says the whole coffee idea of 1 cup a day is easily circumvented with a large enough cup. Well, I mean, sure. Luckily, I'm not going for the min-maxer's coffee attempt here. But anyway, so yeah, she leaves, and she's like it's like a super blue sky. All the early like clouds, and the clouds have been gone away, and you know, it's crazy. There's just like minor fog, and then she's just dressed as herself for the first time in a while, for the first time since she was, you know, outed at the end of the last arc, and people still don't notice her, and she's thinking about like man, this is like when Rachel would walk around the city in her civilian identity and, be able to get away afterward. It's about escape routes or whatever. But then she's like, but I wasn't worried about the heroes this time for a very different reason. Um, and she feels tense at first, but she goes inside the PRT headquarters. She's sensing it with bugs that she had left there the last time she attacked, and she's got a weird, calm air about her. And, there's just like tourists and stuff here, and people are in meetings. And after she's walked in and the guards didn't notice her for a bit, then they suddenly go, "Ah! Villain!" And a guy's like pointing a gun at her. I would assume that when she says gun, she means real gun, not like, containment foam launcher or whatever. So, this is, regardless of the situation, this is still like a dangerous operation. Vic says she's being so internally coy. I feel like she is being kind of coy, but that once she says, like, she's walking to the PRT, like, I feel like I understood what was happening, and, like, I knew she was turning herself in before she says she's turning herself in. And not to be like, I presaged it. I'm just saying I think it was laid out well enough for me to feel what she was doing before she was doing it. Vale says, she's wearing the same dress as the Groove, is it right? My first read, I had no idea she was turning herself in. Yeah, I don't know. I do feel like, for whatever reason, when she says, like, I approached the PRT headquarters, and then she's walking in, like, I could just tell. Like, she's not wearing any armor or anything. She doesn't have any, like, weapons with her. Like, if she was gonna do a thing, she would do it better. You know what I mean? I don't know, Vale, as far as, like, what outfit. I don't think she's wearing the dress. But maybe, let me see. Let me scroll up. I wasn't wearing a costume, but I wasn't hiding in clothes I wouldn't normally wear either. A simple white tank top, black running pants, and running shoes. For all the bystanders could see, I was Taylor Hebert, indistinguishable in appearance or fashion from the girl who'd appeared on the news. Yeah. It's like she thinks about the situation where she was on her way to Gru and Citrine, so that I think could have caused the mix-up, is that she specifically recalls that. But Dale says, my headcanon was wrong. Thank foodness for facts. I have to imagine that was an accidental goodness, but, I thank foodness for facts. So, I'm glad we're on the same page here. Let's see here. She thinks to herself before she's caught, actually, that she had talked to Regent about the unexpected avenue of attack, where, like, even though there are guards stationed to look for villains, then they still don't notice her because of how, like, normcore she's acting. She's really good at acting like super normie. And I'm seeing random laugh things. I have to imagine that people are clicking the hell out of it. But it doesn't tell me who's clicking it. So, man, that section of the thing is so, like, weird and distracting. It's so confusing why they added it. Oh, man. Anyway, so, they notice her, and everybody takes a second to, like, look over at the guy. I think that this scene is actually, like, really well drawn. Like, it's so evocative. It's like the person yells villain, everybody's confused, they all look at him look at the line drawing from his body through the gun to Taylor, notice that it's Taylor, register that it's her, then start like screaming and running around. It feels like this would be a really, really good scene in an episode of a good television show. Let's see here. In the Worm anime, even. Famed television program. So all these people have different weapons, whether they be like regular guns or like non-lethal like containment foam sprayers or whatever. And they're yelling various things like like get down, put your hands behind your head, like all sorts of things, like don't move. Probably one of them yells, "Keep it moving, Buster." I slowly dropped to my knees, then folded my hands behind my head. I think she makes a pretty good call of like a surrender gesture that fits enough of the general things that they might be yelling. It's as non-threatening as you can be while following half a dozen set of different instructions. Miss Militia and the wards and Tag show up, and there's all sorts of people. There's Clock Blocker, Flechette, Vista. Those are the ones we care about. And then Crucible. Who the hell is that? Staring eyes wide. We'll learn that Crucible is one of the replacement wards. And he's a minor character, but I think Crucible's a funny character. I'm glad he's there. But what do we got going? So yeah. So she's she tries to find some peace in this moment, and she opens her eyes and looks up at Miss Militia and says, "I surrender." And she thinks all sorts of things about leaving people, it's funny because the way she says it, she says, "I'd have to be heartless, and this was the most heartless, inhuman thing I could do. Leaving my people, leaving Rachel, leaving Brian. I thought of the paper, the words from Dinah, cut ties. I hope you know what you're doing, Dinah, because this is as cut as I can get them." She's pretty edgelord here. Again, classic, great chapter. I kind of think, just my own opinion, that this chapter is like a standout here. This one and the one where she's at her mom's grave, 21.2, are like head and shoulders above the other chapters in this arc. I don't know why. I have like a weird vibe about this arc. It discussed on a previous episode, and at the time I had just taken at face value Vale's joke that like 22 is so happy all the time. Not that it's happy, but it's just like this one is comparatively so like weird, inevitable, miserable feeling. And then by comparison, 22 is so like driven and like, I don't know. Oh, Vic calls Taylor an edgelord icon. I agree. Yeah. I mean, I think many of us were edgy teens. And I think that Taylor is like the embodiment of like not only the edgy teen, but the like weirdly effective results of her edginess. And so it's can feel cathartic because like, even if someone's a weird edgelord, they may feel pretty connected to that side of their past in various ways. And it's not effective sometimes. Like you can get stuff done as a Taylor like edgelord. As for arc stuff, this is the last Taylor chapter in this arc. It's really the emotional catharsis, her turning herself in from all this wishy-washy, not thinking about stuff, internal monologues that we've had for the last however many chapters, 6. I had made my decision. I knew what I was going to do. I would not tell the audience. But, yeah, it feels good to have this chapter finally happen. It's weird to talk around something that, like, is so obvious in hindsight and integral to kind of the thing. I had once, one time I had been talking about, like, podcasts with my brother, and he had said, like, I don't like as much the ones where they go through things episode by episode. I like when they're talking about things on, like, a high level, and they're talking about a concept within something. And while I do prefer generally the kind of going through things as they happen, because I think it's, like, important for context for a lot of things, especially in long-running franchise. Not so much in, like, a single work, but, like, in a multi-work thing. It can be really important for context, like what information was generated when. But in this case, it's like, yeah, if I had been talking about this arc as a whole, kind of would have been easier to not have to talk around like, oh, she's going to turn herself in. That's the thing. But, I had to find a balance. As for characters, this chapter does not actually have a lot of characters. It, of course, has... I'll go over the minorest characters at the end. The heroes all onlooking, the individual shock of Miss Militia, Clockblocker, and Flechette and Vista. I feel like you can use your mind to think of, like, where they're all at. Like, I can't believe that this person who we have all this new info about, who we've been trying to actively recontextualize already in our minds, has turned themselves in. And so it's like this shocking revelation for all of them for different reasons, because I think we can pretty, like, clearly see each of the 3 wards has a pretty different perspective on Taylor, and Miss Militia, I would say, probably has the most, like, even-handed view of Taylor as well, of like, all the heroes, except maybe Dragon. Dragon is the only one who can out-empathy Miss Militia, and she's a robot trained to empathy, so... Anyway, so it's interesting seeing them, and then there's, Tag being like, I was in a meeting, and now I'm gonna smoke a cigar, and then put out that cigar, and then start smoking another one. I'm like a cartoon character. Vic says, whoa, but Dragon is so cold. Oh, Vale says Dinah knows her best. Woof. I hope not. She has seen all the Taylors. Yeah. I guess that would mean you know them more. I was gonna say, like, because of all the weird spiraled off possibilities, it feels like you almost you would always have, like, a weird skewed view of people if you were had the Dinah perspective. I don't know. We'll see with time that Dinah's perspective on people is, like, general paranoia, even if she likes that person. And, it's kind of no way to live. Her power kind of ruins your life. 48% chance of making it home. She knows Taylor. But the thing is, she didn't necessarily even have to be, I feel like, not that I feel like she was lying, but there is this doubt with all the, like, future seeing people, like, there is a chance that she was just already saying the thing that, like, wins the scenario by saying that to Taylor. She kind of auto interrupts Taylor's process. And yeah, I mean, I guess she knows Taylor best. It's just like a weird situation where it's like by seeing all the worst ends or whatever, or by seeing, I guess she sees trends because she sees percentages. I don't know. Dinah's a pretty sad little girl. Even if she lives like a healthy life or whatever, in terms of like she never gets murked by a super powered person, it's still just like kind of a miserable life to live with that power she's got. But anyway, thank you, Dinah, for telling us to cut ties. Vale says, I don't know either, but I do think Dinah has a really good and clear perspective on exactly who Taylor is. Yeah, I guess. It just feels like Dinah approaches like every situation from a place of like paranoia in a way that like even like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like projecting backwards with knowing more stuff, but it feels like even with the like supposedly hard data she has, her perspective is incredibly skewed. And like I feel like the way that she would go about different situations would like the way that she would ask the questions in her mind would itself like skew things. And I guess we do hear the exact wording of that question and yada yada. But despite Taylor maybe doing that then, I don't think that means that Taylor would always do like some terrible devious thing. I don't know. I think a lot of these parahumans have a lot more capability of like doing the bad thing, and it's just that like Dinah sees the specific road that Taylor would go on. Vale says it's okay to completely disagree, or even if I'm wrong. Yeah. No, I'm not trying to just like consensus or whatever, and it's okay if we disagree. I'm just like trying to think through the thing since we're talking about it. And so maybe I'm spiraling, and spinning my wheels. So I'll move on. I get it, Vale. The wheels have been spun. But I guess the end of the character section is Tattletale and Taylor. I pretty much said how I feel. The great ship, even greater friends. History will know them as roommates. Vale says, oddly enough, if I could choose any power in Worm, I would choose Dinah's. Yeah, it's a very powerful one. You can certainly do a lot with it, but a lot of the stuff that I'm worried about are like obviously coming true that other people are like, that's not gonna happen. But I'm like, it's really obvious that it'll happen, and then it happens. Like, it's already a large part of my life, so like having it happen more doesn't sound amazing. I mean, I guess I could have a more directed view of the future and stuff, but it seems miserable. Dinah's power seems miserable. I hope, Vale, that when you get Dinah's power, you feel okay, and that I was wrong. Um. Yeah. Tattletale. I'm glad that we are seeing stuff from outside of Taylor's perspective in the artwork, so that we could get this shot where she gives Tattletale the hug from outside of her own view. Vale says, I've never been a fan of surprises plus Dinah. Yeah. Um, hmm. Yeah, I guess I just want to talk about the powers, knowledge, and world building now. We'll talk more about Taylor and Lisa surely when we get to the question. Um, so powers, knowledge, and world building. We see that there's a lot going on. We had like the teeth and the ambassadors and the fallen like little scouting party introduced as like interim threats basically when the end of 20 happened, so that we could see sort of how there would be this power vacuum and people trying to move in and stuff, and like the results of the actions of the S9, like kind of being a whirlwind of destruction out there. And we kind of just get a little more drip fed from that. We see like, oh, what's Toy Box? That's like the next thing that the Slaughterhouse 9 attacked. And then we see like, oh, there's the basically like 4 new groups moving in on Brockton Bay, as well as the remaining Fallen, because there's tons and tons of Fallen. So stopping 2 of them didn't exactly quell the threat. Although, a certain level of victory, you'd hope it would off-put them, but these bastards, not so easily deterred, per se. So we're getting a lot, and seeing that, like, for the Undersiders to hold the city, it's going to be, like, this difficult thing. And Taylor's proposal for the Undersiders and the heroes to basically work, like, hand in glove would be a way for that to actually be realistic. And so she feels like she has to do whatever this plan is, surrendering herself to get that to move forward. Yeah. I really like Tattletale's like lair. I like the dark room of it all. So it's a nice little scene. Anyway, I don't have that much more to say about powers, knowledge, and world building. I'm gonna move on to the audience participation question, which is, do you think Taylor's relationship is stronger with Rachel or Lisa? And starting with Vale's answer, we got, I think the specific relationship is stronger with Lisa. Taylor is the authority in the relationship with Rachel, and is surprised by the show of genuine affection. Taylor and Lisa are equals, sharing plans and supporting each other equally, talking off-screen about what/how to handle things, and they have also had numerous conversations about personal matters. They are extremely different relationships, but I think the one with Lisa is stronger in large part because it is equal in power dynamics. I agree with that a lot. I'm gonna read the disagreements that Halloween has, but I agree with that. That's kind of my feelings on it generally. I mean, I have more specific things that I'll maybe touch upon, but yes, I agree. The fact that they are equals in the relationship, the fact that they have a dialogue, like obviously there can be like just vibes based relationships, but like Rachel and Taylor still can't really talk to each other now, and like they can relate in certain ways and whatever, but I don't know, they're still so far apart compared to Taylor and Lisa, who I think are like at a loss because they are so devastated by like the parting, but I think that generally they have a lot to say to each other. And even if they kind of like butt heads on different things, they can talk about that. I don't know. Vale says, I struggled with this question, or with the question all week, to be honest, because I think both are extremely strong, but in almost opposite ways. I eventually went with the equality/dynamic. Yeah. Well, I think that's important, because I think that there's like there's like a weird nature of the Rachel thing where she, yeah, I agree, where she's just not on the same level as Taylor in the social dynamics, and it's like it almost infantilizes Rachel, despite Rachel being this big, imposing, like strong person, like physically. Um, and I don't think that like Taylor means to do that or it's a negative of the story. I mean, like, this is a positive of the story because it's like an exploration of this like character interaction. So it's like really interesting and deepens both of them, but there's always this disconnect of like, it's not necessarily that Taylor looks down on Rachel, but like it almost feels like Rachel thinks she does most of the time. So like there's a divide there too. Um I don't know. Vale says it's also the only way Rachel Taylor could be friends. Yeah, yeah. The Rachel Taylor thing takes Taylor going out on a limb over and over and over again, whereas like Lisa Taylor is like a magnetic force. Like they both want to interact and be together so much that like even when the group is broken up at the end of arc 8, like Lisa makes it work. And you know, when there's that sense of betrayal, Lisa doesn't, like, she never feels like, and I guess you could be like, oh, it's because she had this prior knowledge, she had kind of tricked Taylor from the start, but it's like she never feels betrayed by the things that Taylor does. It doesn't feel like she is just more like, this is how Taylor's gonna act. So they have that connection there too, where the forgiveness is so fast from Lisa. The pre-forgiveness. Anyway, so Halloween says, I'd say pretty much the exact reverse, actually, or not quite the reverse, but Taylor's situation is that her friendship with Lisa is unequal because Lisa saved her pretty explicitly as a surrogate situation for her dead brother and is in one of those deeply unequal homoerotic high school girl best friendships with her. Like, she doesn't open up to Taylor and admit that she can't talk about her problems with her until after the echidna fight. And when she does, she explains pretty clearly that she can't open up and talk about it because Taylor is her problem. Oh, Vale says, well, she knows what Taylor is going to do in advance and in a constant stream of information in between when Taylor is checking her out. Yeah, her power will sometimes tell her useful information, but it's usually just like, you know, Taylor's checking you out again, right? It's terrible to have Lisa's power. Another curse. Okay, so continuing Halloween's answer. Like, she's closer to being on equal mental footing with Lisa than some of her other undersiders, but Lisa spends a lot of time placing herself above Taylor, just due to the way she is. And right after she goes, you know, maybe I'll try to finally be vulnerable and honest and tell Taylor personal things. Taylor fucks off into the sunset to be a cop. And then with Rachel, it's like, obviously Rachel is just straight up for real Taylor's fucking dog. And there's the whole she trusts me way too much scene. So I don't know. I don't think I even have an opinion on which one is closer. I think they're significant to her in different ways. But I think it's interesting how Lisa knows Taylor inside and out and consequently, I don't know why I'm having so much trouble saying that, trust her less, and Rachel is more of a loving Taylor as a dog loves their owner type situation. Um, hmm. I guess there are some things that are unequal between Taylor and Lisa, and they're not always upfront with each other. But if you think about it, like, however long it took Lisa to open up about her shit, like, Rachel literally never does and never will. Rachel will never tell Taylor her backstory or go to her for, like, comfort in this way. She, like, looks to her as, like, a leader and someone that she can trust, but she never will be vulnerable with Taylor like that. And Lisa makes an active effort to be. And Taylor doesn't even expect Rachel to be, but she expects Lisa to be, which to me is telling, because she has this, like, larger emotional expectation of Lisa. And you could say, oh, well, Lisa has a more normal personality, but Lisa's still pretty antisocial. So I think it does say a lot that she's got this strong expectation of Lisa and like needs that of her in arc 19. And 18 and 19. Okay, so on to Vic's answer. And this is, I'm reading in thread order because Halloween will have another rebuttal to whatever Vic is saying. I haven't pre-read these. I just saw that a lot was going on. So Vic says, I think Lisa and Taylor's relationship is stronger because there's more reciprocity. Taylor can't really confide in Rachel emotionally and has to do a lot of the heavy lifting in their dynamic. Exactly. That's what I was trying to say earlier. This is a way better version of saying that in a much more concise way. Then said, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but Lisa and Taylor emotionally support each other. Yeah. Where I think that it's necessary for Rachel to have someone reaching out to her like that. But the fact that she can't help Taylor in return, like, is a thing. Like, that is an issue for their dynamic. And Vic's answer ends with a heart. So, yes. And then Halloween says, I don't think that's true. There are multiple examples of scenes where Taylor is deeply comforted by Rachel, like during, that's a spoiler, when she's not doing so hot and Rachel just kind of heals at her side and sits with her. There's far less reciprocity for Lisa in her relationship with Taylor. This is more or less what happened to her, Lamau. And then it's posted image of probably a Twitter post, maybe a Discord post. But anyway, I guess it must be a Discord message. But it's, I hated her as a kid, but if I lost a agender bug girl to self-destructive sacrifice, then she died and I had to raise their kid, I would have started eating my own organs. I mean, and surely this is a change of a different meme or something, but I don't really think this relates back to their dynamic very well. I think that Tattletale, I don't think Tattletale sees it as a burden to have to help Taylor. I think it's like a calling drive. I just think that the motivations are really different. I don't think that she's like, oh, Taylor, I can't believe that all this stuff. Anyway, reading more of Halloween's answer, Taylor having to put effort into getting along with the world's most autistic dog girl, I do think more closely approaches reciprocity than someone whose relationship with her is based on manipulate fixing her because, well, one of those things is a relationship that takes learning how to view social interactions differently, and one of those involves manipulation. I mean, I know Halloween's not listening because doesn't listen to podcasts or whatever, but I mean, I think that if you view the Tattletale and Taylor relationship as manipulative, like, you kind of have to view the Taylor-Rachel relationship as manipulative. Like, she manipulates Rachel kind of hard, like, in the same ways, in ways that I don't think are actually negative. Like, she helps her find her way, I think. And as much as people want to rag on Lisa, I think that's the same thing for Lisa and Taylor. I think that Lisa helps her find her way. And I don't think it's for, like, a self-gain purpose. I think it's, like, Tattletale really cares about her. And, like, is willing to put in all this effort and wants to stop her from being self-destructive. I don't know. Anyway, I agree with Vic and Vale quite a lot, and I mostly disagree with Halloween, but that is all right. The official stance of this stream is that Lisa and Taylor being on equal footing is a good thing. And the question for next week is, what hijinks would you get up to with Numberman powers? Let's post that into the thing before I forget. Boop. All right, so I'm going to start up that old outro music, which is the same as the intro music, of course. And then, let's see here. So, as always, this has been us covering the work of Wildbow, who you can find on Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow. The music you're hearing now is Imago by ScarlettXOX, which we can find her work at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. I don't know if she's doing any streams anymore. Like, not that she's specifically not streaming, but there's no schedules for it. But anyway, the Discord server link can be found in the description of the stream as well as the channel description. The full text of the work being discussed is available for free at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there is a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. Vale said, take care as always. Or take care, thanks as always. And thank you, Vale. I'm gonna cut my own mic and just let the outro music outro.